Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the last video I said that we need to introduce the idea of a production function in order to derive the production possibilities frontier. So we're going to talk a lot about functions, production functions later on in the course when we get to producer theory. But for now I'm just going to briefly introduce the idea so that we can use it as a tool in understanding where the PPF comes from. So just to start, we can talk about what a function is. Function. This is something you've probably been exposed to before, but for our purposes, we can just think about it as some relationship between inputs and outputs. Inputs and outputs. Okay. A production function is a relationship between inputs and outputs. So we have inputs, which are all the things that go into producing a good or service, which go into some, we can think of it as a black box right now, that we're going to call a production function. Production function. And given these inputs, the production function is going to tell us what our outputs are. Okay. So one example of an input that goes into production could be labor. Okay, labor or hours worked. And I'll use L to denote labor. We're talking about the number of hours that are worked. So let's think about a particular production process for a particular good. And this production process is only going to use labor, so nothing else. Don't worry about everything else that goes into producing this. So let's think about the production of memes. Okay, so we're gonna say that memes are produced with labor and labor only. So we'll say L. That's the number of hours worked. Number of hours worked. Okay. And this is our independent variable. Okay. So we're looking for a relationship between L, the number of hours worked, and the number of memes produced. Okay. Again, we're just assuming that labor is the only thing you need. So what might this relationship look like, or how would we draw this function? So first, we can assume that there's probably a positive relationship between the number of memes that you produce and the number of hours that you put into producing those memes. So we're going to expect that the more hours you put in, the more you produce. So that's not enough. We're going to also assume that sure, there's a positive relationship between the number of hours worked and the number of memes produced, but eventually, the more hours that you put in to producing memes, the fewer additional memes that you're going to produce in that additional hour. Okay. Why might that be? There's a number of reasons. It could be that eventually it just becomes harder to find quality images to make memes that are sufficiently funny. It could be that you run out of ideas, you're running up against your own constraints, and it takes more and more hours to produce the same number of memes. Okay? And that's a silly example, but there's a lot of production processes that could be characterized this way. So when a production function has this particular shape, this sort of diminishing shape, we say that this production process is characterized by diminishing marginal returns. Diminishing marginal returns. Okay, so in this context, we're just saying that you get fewer and fewer additional memes with each hour you you put into producing memes. Okay, so maybe you're going to argue that meme production can't be characterized by diminishing marginal returns, and that's fine. But for a number of production processes, this is a fair assumption. So we're going to go with it for now, and we'll use this toolkit for understanding the PPF. So that's what we'll do in the next video. I'll see you then.